Earlier in the week, we learned that the Philadelphia 76ers turned down a trade offer of Malcolm Brogdon and a first-round pick from the Indiana Pacers for Ben Simmons, which leads some people to believe that the Raptors are in the hunt for this player. But in this video, we're going to look at why Ben Simmons would absolutely ruin the Raptors if he was traded to them. Let's get into it. Welcome everybody to Amateur Sports. This is the channel where you get NBA content with a focus on the Toronto Raptors at least 4 days a week. That is Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and Saturday. This is your Wednesday episode where we're talking about why Ben Simmons would ruin the Toronto Raptors if he was traded there. So if you like what you see from today's video and you want more of myself talking about the NBA and the Raptors in videos and content just like this, make sure to hit that subscribe button down below to show your support to the channel on a road to 5,000 subscribers. You can help us get there by subscribing. But let's get down to business. We're talking about Ben Simmons. We talked about him a little bit after the 76ers were eliminated from the playoffs by the Atlanta Hawks. But that video was more so, Philly, well, you should have traded for Kyle Lowry. Now, it's not going to be as much of that. It's more so going to be kind of talking about the fit of Ben Simmons with the Toronto Raptors, how he fits in, how it would affect the Raptors, how it possibly could affect the Philadelphia 76ers. But let's get talking about it. So, like I said in the intro, the Philadelphia 76ers received a trade offer from the Indiana Pacers. They were going to get Malcolm Brogdon and a first-round pick in exchange for just Ben Simmons. Now, looking at this trade, I think it's a trade that made quite a bit of sense for both teams. I think that Indiana could really use that super ball-dominant player and a really good defender in Ben Simmons. They want to focus on that defense first aspect, which maybe they could be inclined to looking at. Ben Simmons would definitely help that aspect, gives them a lot of length in the guard positions. Obviously can't shoot, but there are other players on the Indiana Pacers who can shoot. Maybe they feel like they can build a bit of a better roster around Ben Simmons and other players. But, Malcolm Brogdon at first, I thought that was a bit of a fair offer, but I think that Philly can get a little bit more than that. Though this trade should be tempting. Philly shouldn't reject this trade. This should be Philly going, okay, we like it. We just want to get a little bit more out of you. Because Malcolm Brogdon averages, I think, over 20 points per game. I would put him on that near all-star level, kind of that Fred VanVleet tier of players. That near all-star, right on the cusp, also being a very good player. And you're also getting the first-round pick. Not to mention that Malcolm Brogdon can actually shoot threes and shoot free throws. Actually had a 50-40-90 season with the Milwaukee Bucks not very long ago. So that would help out the Sixers a lot. I think a trade made a bit of sense, but I still think Philly could have held out for a little bit more, and I guess that is what they are doing. But now people are kind of saying that, well, they're going to turn down that. Maybe they are interested in trading with the Raptors here. And a lot of the people out there, analysts and whatnot, they think that the Raptors are one of the favorites to land Ben Simmons in the offseason. I don't know where these rumors are coming from because Ben Simmons absolutely does not fit in with the Raptors for a number of reasons. And I think that one of the biggest ones is the contract. You're not looking at Ben Simmons, even though he's been an all-star. I don't necessarily agree with him in being an all-star like every year. I actually don't think he is at that tier. Looking at his stats every year, where's the improvement? This is supposed to be a young player that's getting better every single season. Where is the improvement in this player? And why is there no improvement? It's a little bit of a peculiar case here. Young players typically get better every year. There's some certain things about their game that doesn't work. The next season they come back and all of a sudden, wow, they spent the whole offseason working on it and it absolutely shows. But for Ben Simmons, that's never happened. We've never seen, wow, Ben Simmons did all summer working on this part of his game. No, he's been the exact same player for every year of his career so far, which leads me to believe he has no work ethic. And it's come out from the Philadelphia camp that they've tried everything to get this guy to be a shooter. He won't do it, and that is one of the key reasons why he does not fit in with the Raptors. The Raptors embody this hustle, underdog mentality. Even though you may not be the most talented team on the court on paper, you can still go out and get your win because you are willing to be a dog and go work for that win. Ben Simmons has never showcased any sort of trait in any sort of endeavor of his basketball career. Clearly, free throws are a problem for Ben Simmons. He should be spending hours every single day in the offseason putting up free throws because it is a liability for his team in the biggest games to have Ben Simmons on the court. Do I want that on the Raptors? No, and I bring it back to the fact that he's making this enormous amount of money. He made $30 million last season. Do you think Ben Simmons is a $30 million player? That's another discussion. I would say maybe, but in 4 years, he's going to be a $40 million player. Now, I will ask, do you think Ben Simmons is a $40 million player? Will he be in 4 years? Maybe. It's a long time away. It's really hard to suggest, but I think that is a huge gamble. A huge gamble for any team that does take that on. I mean, come on. $40 million. This isn't a contract that, just part of the player. You're trading for the player. That's a contract. It's a good player. This is a contract that really decreases his value because Ben Simmons, I think, really needs a change of scenery. I think that Philly could also use a change of scenery. And I think that Philly are going to eventually work out a trade to get Ben Simmons out of Philly and build a better team around Joel Embiid. There's always this kind of argument that who do you build around, Ben Simmons or Joel Embiid? I've always been on the side of Ben Simmons because I expected him to take a jump at some point. With his insane passing and playmaking ability, with his defense, you want to build around that. But I was expecting him to just get better year after year like, young players do, mostly at least. Ben Simmons has this refusal to work to get better. And for that reason, he doesn't fit in with the team. With the Raptors, we're already kind of constrained in terms of our cap ability. I mean, we've got Pascal Siakam on a max. OG Anunoby, though, a very good contract. He's about to be making $72 million over the next 4 years. A great contract, but still, you're paying him a little bit. Fred VanVleet's making about $21 million a year for the next 3 years. We got to pay Gary Trent this offseason if we want to keep him. There's a lot of guys that are going to need contracts. Plus, we're about to spend, I would think that we have $20 million in cap space that we either want to spend on somebody like Kyle Lowry or somebody else, like maybe a new center like Rashawn Holmes. We don't have that 30-something million and then eventually $40 million to be spending on Ben Simmons. That's just how I feel about it. He's 4 more years left on this contract, and there's not a lot to like about him in terms of fitting in with the Raptors. Let's just assess his fit. Let's say that the big rumor about this is that Kyle Lowry is going to go to the 76ers via sign and trade. We send him plus probably other assets. You look at what their value is here. They turned down Brogdon and a first. We look at the value here. Kyle Lowry, among other things, goes to Philly. We get Ben Simmons. Ben Simmons is our point guard. Fred VanVleet's our shooting guard. You have OG, Siakam, and then Khem Birch or the new center. Whoever we get at center, rounding off the 5 year. Now, I will say his height does help Fred VanVleet because Fred VanVleet lacks that height. And Ben Simmons takes that playmaking burden off of Fred VanVleet, which would be great. Our defense would be elite because Ben Simmons adds to an already really good defensive team with OG, Siakam, Fred VanVleet, who all, I think, have a case for all defense at some points. But offensively is where the Raptors have struggled. Our defense is already fine. I'd say our defense is fine. On most games, we can rely on our defense to be good. Now, what we need to do is, take that points that we allow and obviously outscore a team. It's simple. It's basketball. It's how it works. You outscore a team, you win. But, you got to take that you're going to have a good defensive performance. Now, can you outscore the team with your offense? And the Raptors, they have significantly struggled to do this. And especially last season, the half-court offense, especially in the clutch when teams collapse and say, okay, come beat us, that is where the Raptors had their problems. And already having problems with that, Ben Simmons makes that even worse because he is not very dynamic. Basically, Ben Simmons hits layups. He doesn't hit mid-range. He doesn't hit threes. He doesn't hit free throws. So unless Ben Simmons is hitting a layup, he is not really partaking in the scoring output on your offense. So if there's other guys around him, like some sharp shooting three-ball players, like Fred VanVleet's a decent three-point shooter. OG Anunoby's a good three-point shooter. Siakam can be good. Wasn't good last season. I hope he's better next season. And your center, the Raptors probably won't have a center who can shoot threes. So I'd say we are really missing that perimeter-centric player, which Ben Simmons absolutely is not. And Ben Simmons, if anything, the fact that he needs to get those layups, obviously the defense is going to collapse that little bit more, and that's the problem for Pascal Siakam. Because if we have Ben Simmons, we need Pascal Siakam to be that number one scorer because Ben Simmons isn't going to be that guy. You're expecting Ben Simmons' playmaking to help out Pascal Siakam be that number one scorer. Because if you're paying Ben Simmons that much money, you don't have the money to get a primary scorer to play with Siakam. You're committing to Siakam being that primary scorer, which also is just another drawback because Siakam's a good second option, not a good first option. It's a bit of a drawback to have Siakam as your first option. You got to pay that astronomical amount of money to Ben Simmons. So now you got to ask Siakam to be that main scorer. But now his paint's a little bit more crowded because Ben Simmons just being there on the court makes the defense collapse that little bit more. That makes it even harder for Pascal Siakam to get his buckets. Maybe it kind of helps out Fred VanVleet and OG on the perimeter, but OG as well really likes to get in on the inside. It just doesn't make a lot of sense for the Raptors to do this. And Masai Ujiri has consistently built up his teams to be competitive. Last season was just a bit of an anomaly playing in Tampa. Some free agent signings didn't work out. Some things didn't go our way. Unlucky COVID protocols, all that. So much went into it. We didn't have a good season. But Masai Ujiri has never shied away from trading a star player to build out a more deep roster. He really likes a deep roster that doesn't really have any weaknesses, except for having maybe that top-heavy player. And when he came into the Raptors, he traded Rudy Gay, who was the star player of the team, and the team turned around from there. We started 6-12 with Rudy Gay, and Rudy Gay, this amazing player at the time, but we trade him away, we fill out a roster, we get better. When he was with Denver before the Raptors, he had Carmelo Anthony. He traded away him and Chauncey Billups and built out a deeper roster, and that Denver team went on to be a second seed in their conference. So Masai knows how to build up his teams. He doesn't just look for star power. He knows how to fill out a roster, to be a deep and complete roster rather than this just, you put the good names on the court, they're going to go figure it out and be a good team. Because that's not the case. Because Philly have been doing that for years and years and years. If Ben Simmons is as good as Philly say they are, then how come they can't compete against the 5-seed Atlanta Hawks while they're fully healthy? Atlanta were not healthy. They didn't have DeAndre Hunter for a number of those games. How did Philly not go and win that series considering they have a guy who probably would have won MVP in Joel Embiid if he didn't get injured over the course of the season, and they have the all-star in Ben Simmons, and they have Tobias Harris, who was playing quite well in the playoffs, obviously some bad games, had him playing quite well. Seth Curry was playing like Steph Curry in some of the games. How did this team fail to beat the Atlanta Hawks? It comes down to those big moments in the half-court. Ben Simmons was scared to even dunk the ball in some certain situations in Game 7. It came down to their half-court offense letting them down on numerous occasions, not being able to create a bucket because their all-star Ben Simmons had to hide under the rim and play like he's Boban Marjanovic, who can't even move out to the perimeter. He can't even touch the ball for fear of getting fouled. That is a player I do not want on this Toronto Raptors team. That is a player who would ruin this Raptors organization with his contract and I think with his play. Can Ben Simmons turn his career around with the right setup? Yes, I believe so, and I think Indiana might be a decent spot for that. But if they're turning down Brogdon and a first for Ben Simmons, I don't want to know the astronomical value they have set for this player. And I don't really want to find out by fielding it with Toronto Raptors trade negotiations. So all things considered, the contract, the player, his work ethic, his ability, and the price that the 76ers have set, I am out. So what do you guys make of Ben Simmons to the Toronto Raptors? I want to hear all of your thoughts and opinions in the comments down below because that wraps up for me for today. Thank you so much for watching this video. If you are still here, be sure to smash that like button if you did enjoy the video at any point. It really goes a long way to helping us reach some new viewers. Also shows me that you made it to the end of the video. Check out our Twitch, twitch.tv/amateursports. We watch along these NBA Finals games plus do other video game content. We have a lot of great stuff coming in the offseason as well, but we are watching Game 2 of the NBA Finals tomorrow. If you want to come check that out, 15 minutes before the tip-off. Subscribe to the channel with the button right over here. Again, on a road to 5,000 subscribers. You can help us get there. When we hit 5K, I am going to shave my head again. Other videos about the channel you may enjoy, and always remember, at the end of the day, I believe what I say, and if you disagree, that is okay. Enjoy the grind, and I'll see you again next time for another video.